Kareem right here, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing Charlie Trafford, a Canadian professional soccer player who plays as a midfielder for Cavalry FC. Charlie, thank you for taking the time today. How's it going?
Doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to do this.
Take us back in time and just share how you got involved in the beautiful game.
Um, yeah, it's been since I could walk, which is I get made fun of a lot for in Calgary. I come from a pretty athletic family and stuff like that, but nothing soccer whatsoever. My Everyone else played racket sports and rugby, and so I don't know how it was soccer, but since I could walk, it was soccer and obsessed with it. I've got a bunch of family, like European family. My dad's side from England, my mom's side from like Poland. And so maybe a bit of influence from my grandparents and stuff like that, but really, yeah, not a whole lot of soccer. But since I could walk, it was an obsession in that. So just, yeah, I grew up playing it. I grew up playing loads of sports, but by 12, 13, it was kind of full commitment towards soccer and wanting to do that. But um, yeah, and then it was just chasing the dream and doing that. Obviously, in Calgary, there's not a whole lot of opportunity, especially when I was coming up. There was very little. There was only a handful of pro teams across the whole country. Not a whole lot of exposure in Calgary. Not a whole lot of infrastructure or anything. So it was always a long shot, the one in a multi-million down the line kind of chance. So it's been a pretty cool one and something I've just chased for my whole life.
Yeah, I think, growing up in Canada and playing soccer in Canada is a bit unique versus Europe. Um, Soccer is just blowing up. CPL started back in 2019. So just share a little bit with our viewers of that experience of growing up playing soccer in Canada, especially for the footballers growing up in Canada now, being able to look up to the CPL and say, hey, back in my backyard, I can go pro here. Because that wasn't, going back a few years, that wasn't a thing.
No, yeah, and I think that's why the CPL is very special, right? It's something that we didn't have growing up, and so like how fast it's growing. Even the last 2 years that I've been a part of it, obviously since the beginning, but these last 2 years since I've been here, it's been pretty insane to see the growth of soccer across the whole country. But our fan group, the amount of kids coming out, the amount of jerseys you're seeing around, and like you said, it gives these kids kind of something to look up for and some sort of pathway to achieve it. Obviously, the hockey route is just, it's so visible, right? In Canada, it just makes sense. And there's so many teams, there's so much opportunity and stuff. So that was a problem when we were growing up. By like 13, 14, all the best athletes were choosing another sport other than soccer. And now all of a sudden you're seeing a lot of the top ones sticking out in soccer and having this kind of chance. But yeah, we laugh about it a lot. Like when we were growing up, we did 6 months of the year outdoor soccer, 6 months indoor. And it was not like nowadays, even in Calgary, we have all the full size Astro fields indoors and stuff. And it's almost not a huge factor. Well, when we were growing up, like we were playing for 6 months on wood gym floors. Like we did our training only in like high school gyms. And that's what we did for 6 months of the year. So it was always, don't get me wrong, you can kind of develop something from that. It was almost like playing futsal and you could kind of develop technically, but then you go over to Europe and by the time you're like 16, these guys have played twice as much soccer as you have and stuff. So you're always kind of chasing the game and behind the eight ball almost because there was just lack of that infrastructure and opportunity. So it is such a cool thing. It's one of the reasons I came home, obviously working with Tommy. It's been a big thing of, obviously we want to win trophies and we want to do well as on the field, but like one of the big aspirations is to actually grow this game and see it grow. And between the national team having success lately, the new league, and this growth, it's pretty special time for soccer in Canada. That's cool.
Yeah, 100%. Alfonso Davis said something along the lines that we're here to make soccer the number one sport in Canada. I don't know if you've heard that.
I didn't hear him say that, but exactly. Like again, in terms of numbers, it's there, right? Like the amount of kids playing it, it's just a game. It's a game for everybody, Hockey's getting so expensive for people. It's a tough one, and you need a couple of superstars like Alfonso Davies partnered with like the league, obviously coming. But between that, when we have a superstar like him do as well as he's done, it gives kids again that thing, something to look up to, and a star to want to kind of be. And then now with the CPL, obviously now it creates that pathway and the infrastructure to achieve that. And so all in, like it's ripe for soccer to kind of blow up here, and it's a pretty cool thing.
For sure. You I want to dig into a little bit of how you went pro. So just take us back from the age of 18 from high school, and just carve the path, from the steps you took to go pro.
Yeah, I left Calgary when I was about 16, 17. I got a move to the Vancouver Whitecaps and just did a season there. And then I got released. I was so small. I was such a late developer. By 18, everyone else was men. And I was just going through puberty. I grew from 17 to 18. I grew 30 centimeters, and like I was nowhere near ready to play men's football. And so I was on the cusp of almost giving it up there. I tried my hardest to like convince myself. I'm like, listen, I know I'm like technically good enough and tactically, I'm just not there physically. And so if I could stick it out for a little while, like I know I could get an opportunity. And so I ended up leaving there. I had a knee operation when I was 18, and kind of that again, like I said, was almost a setback of like, if I'm not making it at 18, like they're not taking me seriously in Europe. There's very little opportunity in Canada. I've been released from the Vancouver Whitecaps. Like, what am I going to do? I went to school out in Toronto for a year at York, and just kind of used it as almost like this gap year of I trained as hard as I could. I was in the gym every day. I was doing stuff to try to like I almost treated it as if I was playing pro while there, and saying like, listen, just give it a year, see what happens. If I can fill out a little bit and give this an opportunity. I did my year there, enjoyed it, and an agent offered me a trial in Europe, and so I said, okay, I'm going to take 6 months off school. I'll set up kind of these tryouts. Like I said, back then there was very little opportunity. The only way to do it was kind of that. If unless you were, again, I don't know what, blowing up or in the youth national team or something, like there was very little exposure. So it was that. It was a matter of I packed my bags. I told my parents, I was like, I'm going to go over there 6 months, do as many tryouts as I can, knock on doors, whatever I need. And if I make it, I make it. And if not, I'll come back and I'll at least say I tried, and I'll hang up the boots and kind of move forward. And I went to Holland, my first place. I went on this trial, and they gave me like a 2-day trial, just a favor to the agent. Basically, they didn't take it serious at all. I was 18, 19 years old, never played pro. Like basically in Holland at that age, I'm coming over, they're comparing me to like the 15-year-olds. That's where I'm at in like development, and I'm 19, and that's where I am physically and stuff like that. So I was like, it was crazy. It was like I could tell they didn't take it very seriously, and they said, okay, you have 2 days, just like let him train with us. And I had one of those days where you're unstoppable, the days where everything goes right. And so then they kind of were like, this is all right. So they moved me with the first team and let me train a day with the first team. And I, again, had another one of those days, and they said they extended the trial to 2 weeks. And I knew then, I was like, all right, they're taking me like at least seriously now. And they're actually looking at me, and ended up signing a deal there. And then, yeah, the rest is kind of history, but just one of those moments of like, yeah, I don't want to say lucky. I've been training my whole life for that kind of opportunity, but just, yeah, it happened to work out on that day, and then just ran with it from there. It was, again, a crazy one. Like, I'd never been in the Canadian, I didn't even get looked at. Like, I don't think I was on the Canadian national team radar. I was like, again, like I said, I was such a late developer. I was barely making the Alberta provincial team at 15 and stuff like that. So it was quite the journey. And like, my like one factor I like to give credit to, I don't really like, again, I know there's so many people who are so much more talented than me and stuff, but my resilience to kind of like stick things out and never quit has been one of my like big factors in like succeeding in this sport.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, it's not, you mentioned resilience. It's not only resilience, it's not only your ability. You also you have to have confidence in order to go overseas, not have your family or friends. You got to have some funds. Um, so a little bit of a mix of different things. What advice would you give to the next generation of soccer players that want to go pro? Maybe they're not, getting the attention, as you explained that you didn't get in their hometown, in their backyard, but you went overseas and got that. So what advice would you give to players growing up that want to go pro?
Yeah, I think again that word is big for me. That resilience of like everybody has a different pathway. You know what I mean? I played with kids who at 16 were unbelievable, and they were physically developed, and they could go play men's soccer right away. And if you're not that, like, it's so hard to compare yourself to those kind of kids. You need to have this ability to like stick it out find ways to, what is your pathway through? There's kids who've gone to school first. There's kids who are ready to go, like I said, go pro at 16. There's some who need to go to school and develop, and they're ready at 20 or 22. And there's just, nowadays, there's so many more kind of opportunities and routes you can do. Obviously, like MLS stuff where you can go the college route and graduate and get drafted, and now you're 22. There's the European route. There's obviously now, with this Canadian market kind of expanding and blowing up, there's people watching here, so there's opportunity. There's the CPL. There's like, so I think one thing for kids is just to not get too hung up on what other people are doing. For sure, everyone has their different route, their way to achieve it. And then in that, you need to, two things you have to do is you have to love it and you have to enjoy doing it, because it is a grind, it is a battle. You have to be willing to. I lived in Europe for 10, 11 years, and you're, like I said, you're away from your family. You miss a lot of stuff back home, and so you better love it and you better enjoy doing it, because there's a lot of moments that are not as fun. And so you have to have fun, and again, it's the best time of your life. You have to enjoy the training, enjoy that. So I would say make sure you love it and then work hard. Those are the kind of, between resilience, love, and work ethic, are the factors that I saw the majority of people around make it. Without those, it doesn't matter your ability or this and that. It's very hard to kind of achieve it, I think.
For sure. And I definitely resonate with what you're saying in regards, again, not getting the attention that you got in Europe back at home, and you were willing to go take that step and cross that bridge. Really resonates, because I had to do that myself, and it's really hard because you want that from home. I want to tap back into Vancouver. I always felt when I was playing against TFC, when I was with Woodbridge or Brampton, I was like, these guys at TFC, man, their confidence and the way the kit just looks on them, and it's embodying the first division team. These guys have some different level of confidence. So for you, when you were playing at Vancouver, what is different? Give the guys some insight in towards what's different. You guys are playing at the top facilities. The training is different. The quality, you're playing with the best guys. How do you change into that player that you need to be to play in that environment?
Yeah, it's funny. I agree with that. Again, you have to, I think if you look at these pros, you don't want to be arrogant, because they get this like false sense of arrogance and stuff. And those guys, whether they're, I don't know what, but I've seen a lot of those ones fall off because of this like false arrogance. But you're right, where you need this confidence. Again, it's a crazy industry where not only you need to be good, but now all of a sudden you have to have a coach that believes in you. You have to have the confidence of the players around you. So there's so many of these factors that determine of. It's not like 100-meter sprinter where if you're the fastest, you're the fastest. There's not a whole lot. There's no, you can't argue with that. In soccer, there's so many factors and these little moments of luck or whatever it needs, that everything needs to click for you to do it and make it, or that moment. And so yeah, that you have to have this confidence and belief, because there's going to be moments where the coach doesn't play you, or there's moments where he plays you and the team's losing and he has to change it. So there's all these things that play into like your success beyond just your ability. And so you need to have that confidence that you can't get rattled in those moments when there's the tough times. You do this. And so yeah, I think, and of course when you go to those bigger clubs, and like you said, you're treated like a professional. You're not arriving at the field and trying to get changed on the side of the field or do this. And so you look the part. You're in this gear, you're in the nice facilities, and so it embraces that kind of confidence as well. So it's got to be a balance of like that self-belief, and then when you get into that moment, that you kind of embrace it and believe in it, but without getting ahead of yourself. Just because you're 17 and training with Vancouver Whitecaps or whatever, it does not mean you've made it. It does not mean that you should walk around like an asshole or whatever. So I don't know if you can say that on here, but you can't walk around like that because you haven't made it. And so like you're going to get brought back down to earth very quickly if that's how you kind of operate. So it's got to be that balance, right? You got to believe in yourself. You got to have that swagger and whatever, like, it is. You see the players who have that. And like I was speaking to a scout the other day, and he says that he's like, I can watch people in warm up and I can tell you if they're good or not from that. And they're like, you haven't even seen them kick a ball yet, and you've already made up your mind on them, right? So yeah, it's a funny one. It's a funny industry. You need to do a lot to do that. But yeah, you got to strike that balance. I think that's key.
Yeah, for sure. So much value in what you're saying, and it's very true. You know, um, something that I really loved and admired again was that confidence from those players, and the it's such a great pathway for players to take to follow the MLS academy system and go pro that way. But we know that not it's a numbers game. You have to make sure you're at the top of the list, and sometimes you actually may have the quality to be there, but you just weren't exposed, or maybe you don't know the right person per se. But again, going back to your story, you might have to take the jump. So I really want players to take that in. With saying that, once you signed your first professional contract, how did it feel and what changed?
Yeah, it's obviously like the best feeling in the world. It's just something like, you feel like I've chased my whole life for this. I've dreamed since I was a kid to go over to Europe and do this. And it's just like, yeah, it's the craziest feeling. And that you're phoning your parents, you're almost in tears. Obviously, they're proud, and they've supported me. My parents have been there for everything, the amount of driving and travel and whatever we've done. So it feels like it's a joint effort, and I've got my group of friends that I've been friends with since I was like 4 or 5, and so I felt like that we made it, and so it was a pretty cool like sense of pride, and you get to enjoy it for a few days, and then you almost have to like I said, you have to step back and almost be like I actually haven't made it. Like it's pretty cool that I've signed my first contract and I'm in the game now, but like I've got a long way to go, and if you ever kind of get that entitlement or that feeling of just like, yeah, I've made it. I've seen so many players slip away so quickly because of that, and that's so. There was definitely like this exhilaration and like unbelievable feeling and pride, and I can't even describe the feeling and how special it was. And then at the same time, you're like, okay, I need to stay level. I can't get too high, can't go too low, and I need to kind of get back to work. And now that I've got this first deal, like now you got to prove yourself. So it's a funny one like that. You know what I mean? Like there's just, yeah, pride at the same time of like, I haven't made it, and I need to now keep this, now that everyone's coming for my job, and that. So it's cool. It's fun the whole way through.
You mentioned being humble, being grounded, not getting too high, not getting too low. How have you been able to do that? You're obviously still playing in the beautiful game at a very high level. What advice would you give to players in staying humble?
Yeah, it's I don't know the best way to say that, but yeah, again, I have an unbelievable family and group of friends that have like almost never let me. Again, they support me and love to. We feel like when I do something well, we all feel like we kind of make it. So I have that support, but at the same time, it doesn't let me get like big headed or go too much. So I think having a good group of people around you definitely is a big factor in that. Um, and then also, yeah, just having that right mentality of knowing that like that it's a fine balance between confidence and arrogance, right? And not thinking that you're better than this. You get humbled so quickly in this game, so it's if you start to go too high, like I promise you comes crashing back down. So I think it comes with experience, obviously. Like when you're younger, I was 20, 21, whatever, and you'd have moments of where things were going well, and you go too high from it, and again you realize very quickly that you come crashing back down. So it takes a bit of maturity and growth and learning that, and it comes from experience and stuff like that. So again, some people you have to go through it. Some people have that mentality already. So it's just that fine balance again. So I'd say that surround yourself with good people, and then obviously be ready for it, because yeah, life comes fast in this game. It's like a hyper magnified version of life, I guess, how fast things happen and the ups and the downs. So it's just be ready for it, I guess, and keep that right mentality.
For sure, it's definitely a small circle at the top of the pyramid. With saying that, what position do you currently play, and what specific skills and attributes do you believe are essential for success in that position?
Play center midfield. Um, Again, because I was such a late developer and like I was so far off it athletically, just in terms of how small and not I didn't have the strength. I really had to focus on this like tactical and technical side of the game. So I've always like thrived in pushing that, like I've always believed that like the game is played with your brain. And if you can outthink people and have a stronger mentality and stuff like that. So I would say those are kind of the factors I really like to resonate with. And, the players of Sergio Busquets and stuff like that, who you can see are just like think differently on the field and stuff like that. So that obviously, again, as a midfielder, you need to have a certain amount of athleticism. You need to technically, you're always in tight spaces under pressure. You need to be able to hit long passes, short passes, stuff like that. So I play a little bit more defense on the defensive side, defensive midfield. So again, you try to control the tempo of the game and be you need to be positionally very kind of right to be reading the game and being able to kind of control the tempo of the game, I guess I'd say.
For sure. In the CPO, you guys play in front of thousands and thousands of fans. How do you handle the pressure and expectations that come with being a professional soccer player, both from fans and yourself?
Yeah, it's a funny one because again, I've played overseas. I've played in games with 60, 70,000 people, again in a few different countries and stuff. So I've played in much bigger crowds than here, but just because it's my hometown and I don't know what, it almost there comes with that same amount of kind of pressure and expectations. But I think preparation, again, like again, this experience, you get a bit more used to it. You get used to playing in front of it, but so I would say experience is a one thing of, just being able to do it over and over again. And then preparation, if you're prepared and going into these situations with confidence, like there's a certain amount of like excitement and whatever from the crowd and being yelled at. But when you're prepared and your kind of preparation is right, then you go in confident anyway, and then that affects you less for sure. And then, like I said, that whole mentality of not going too high, not going too low, you're going to have bad games. We're human, we're going to make mistakes. And so it's about kind of how you deal with that. And then again, then it goes into the finer detail and the marginal gains, whether you work with psychologists or these mental coaches or whatever they call themselves now, different things like that. So there's, again, it's tools. It's about experience, about how do you keep learning and developing, and that mental side of the game is obviously one of them. So you need to be prepared for that and you do that. And then the last thing I will say, kind of a quote I love, is just that like that pressure is a privilege, right? If you're in those situations, you're playing in front of crowds, it means you've earned it. You've put yourself up for this. You've worked so hard to get to those moments. And I think you just have to embrace it like that. This, like, the bigger the crowd gets, the more you keep earning it and the more you deserve it. So you need to just almost embrace it and love it.
Yeah, coming up on time here, I want to be respectful. The last question I'll ask before the fun ones is, what has been the most memorable moment in your soccer career so far?
Um, a couple, obviously, one of the biggest ones I would say is my debut for the Canadian national team. Um, Again, like I said, it's my journey. I was getting cut from the Alberta team at 15. I didn't even get a sniff. I don't think my name was even mentioned for the under 15s, under 19, under 20 national teams, whatever. And then I made my debut straight into the men's first team. So it was pretty special for me. Again, another thing you grow up dreaming of doing and representing your country. So I think that was up there. It was a pretty special moment. My whole family flew out for it. Um, my dad doesn't get emotional very often, and I remember him in tears for it and stuff like that. So definitely that is up there in the one. Again, winning trophies is pretty cool, and coming back home to Cavalry here and playing in Calgary and winning the league this year, it's one of the most excited I've been, I guess, in terms of stuff, for sure, just because of, I guess, the expectation on it. And when I moved home and moved back from Europe, I put a lot of expectation on myself and pressure that this is why I was coming home. And I promised Tommy that we would win a trophy and stuff. So it was pretty cool feeling this year to do that as well.
What year did you play with the national team?
Up until 2018, 2019. So, and then I think my debut was in 2015, 2014, 2015, something like that.
Yeah, that's huge. And you're part of the, I usually say 1%, but it's really 0.0001% because it's really hard to go pro, man. Really hard. Um, with saying that, I want to congratulate you guys on winning the CPO Canadian Shield. Am I saying that right for 2023?
Yeah, I don't actually. I don't know. It keeps changing names, but yeah. So we won the league basically, and which is pretty cool. Obviously, this year they've made where North American sports don't put as much kind of emphasis on the actual league side, while in Europe, like that's what means the most of is winning the league. And then this year they've kind of embraced that, and so winning the league, we got we got a spot into the CONCACAF Champions League for next season, which is pretty cool thing. And then this week now we're in the playoffs, and so we play in the final this weekend against Forge out here in Hamilton. So chance to do the double, it'll be pretty cool.
You guys got to do it, man. I'm tired of seeing Forge win.
Yeah, me too. Believe me too.
It'll be good for the league, man. The fans are gonna love it for sure.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah, that's true.
some funny speed questions here, quick ones. Um,
Yeah.
what is your favorite food?
Maybe sushi. I'll go sushi. I traveled to Japan just to for the food there and stuff. I love the whole Japanese culture and stuff. But yeah, I love sushi.
What is your favorite movie?
So many, but of recent in the last few years, the movie called The Gentleman with Matthew McConaughey. I love anything like empire building stuff. Gets me going.
What's your favorite activity besides playing soccer?
Um, Run a business on the side with my sister, which is pretty fun. But I get made fun of a lot in the team that I'm just like a little kid. I love sports and activities, and so I'm out playing. I played in a slow pitch softball team throughout the year, which we won the title. So I'm technically going for a treble this year again this weekend. Um, After winning that trophy as well. But yeah, I play in tennis tournaments. I play like paddle pretty competitively. So I get made fun of a lot. I get a bit in trouble from the sports science team at Calps for doing it. But yeah, I'm a big activity guy. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. You could plug in the company if you want. We just hit 1,000 subscribers, so we're growing.
That's sick. Congrats. It's called Trafford Farms, indoor agriculture. So high quality food growing all year round in the city. So
Nice. Yeah, we definitely need that. I mean, at least what they're doing in America is crazy, but I'm not sure in
yeah,
Canada.
yeah.
The last two. Who's your favorite music artist?
Again, so many. I'm gonna give J. Cole a little bit of J. Cole for the last while.
And the last one, Messi or Ronaldo?
I'm a Man U fan, so I'm like always try to be loyal to Ronaldo and that. I think Messi's a better footballer and like gifted and so cool to watch. I mean, it's a joke and how smooth and again one of those guys. But you have to love Ronaldo and his work ethic and what he's done with the game. So it's pretty cool to see them both like how far they've pushed each other and what they've done for the game. But I don't know. It's a bit of a cop out answer, but yeah, I don't know.
You got to choose one side, man. That's what we do. We choose one.
Ronaldo. I go Ronaldo then, my boy.
Push you to the edge, man. All right. Sounds good. Well, Charlie, if there's anything I missed, let me know. If you want to add anything in there before we close off.
Yeah, not too much. Again, I'm really excited to do this. Again, I'm probably when I lay down tonight, I'll think of other stuff I could have said. But so maybe we do a second episode after we win the double or something like that.
Oh
but,
yeah,
yeah.
we'll make an announcement. You guys, that would be the first one that you guys win. No.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you the best of luck, man. I hope you guys win. I'm on your side for this one. So yeah, Forge.
Appreciate that.
Hey, Charlie, before we go, I'd like to thank you for taking the time for joining me on the One Soccer Nation podcast.
Yeah, thank you again. Like I said, I'd love to help grow the game, grow these kind of things, and so you do some great interviews. So it's would keep loving to see you grow and do your thing. So yeah, I wish you all the best and appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.